Hello dear friends, in this video we are going to discuss about meaning of experimental research. Experimental research is a classical laboratory method where the researcher manipulates at last one independent variable, control others relevant variables and observes the effect on one or more dependent variables. First, experimental research is a classical laboratory method. It is a classical laboratory method. It follow a classical laboratory methods. And in this method, the researchers manipulate and at last one independence variable. Here the researcher manipulate at last one independence variable. And when the researcher is going to manipulate independent variables, at that times the researcher must control other relevant variables, that is extraneous variables. And after manipulation of independence variable by controlling extraneous variable, the researchers observe the effect of manipulations on dependent variables. This is a very simple meaning of experimental research. If we take an example of experimental research, then effect of use of interactive multimedia on achievement of 10th class student or 10th grade student. Here interactive multimedia is independent variable and student achievement is dependent variables. Here the researcher manipulate interactive multimedia and observes its manipulations or effects manipulation on student achievement. Next, experimental research is fundamentally defined by the direct manipulation of an dependence variable. It means in experimental research, a researcher direct manipulate an independence variables. Experimental research is only one type of research that can test hypotheses to establish cause and effect relationship. Actually, among all type of research, experimental research, only one type of research where the researcher tests hypothesis to establish cause and effect relationship between variables. The manipulation of an dependent variable is the primary characteristic that differentiates experimental research from other types of research. Actually, the words manipulations plays a very significant role in experimental research. And manipulations is one of the primary characteristic of experimental research. And this is only one characteristic that differentiates experimental research to others kind of research. Actually, dear friends, in this video we used a lot of times the word variable, independent variable and dependent variable. Then what is variable, what is independent variable and what is dependent variable? Let's discuss. Variables are the condition or characteristic that the researcher or experimenter manipulate, controls or observes. Actually, variables are the condition or the characteristics that the researcher or the experimenter manipulate, control or observes. In simple words, variables are manipulated by the experimenter or the researchers. Variables are controlled by researcher or experimenter, and also variables are observed by the experimenter and researcher. And generally there are two important types of variables are there. One is independent variable and another one is dependent variables. Independent variable are the condition or characteristic that the experimenter manipulate or controls in his or her attempt to ascertain their relationship to observed phenomena. Actually, in simple sense, independent variables are those variables, are those conditions, are those characteristics which are easily manipulated by the researchers according to his way, according to his point of view. And this independence variables also known as treatment variable, casual variable, and experimental variable. In experimental research, independence variable are frequently manipulated. We know manipulation is the primary characteristic of experimental research. So, in experimental research, independence variable are frequently manipulated. And the example of independent variable are method of instructions, type of reinforcements, study materials, learning materials, etc. are the example of dependent variables. The dependent variables are the condition or characteristics that appear, disappear, or change as the experimenter introduces, removes, or changes independent variable. In simple sense, dependent variables are that variables which are completely depend on independent variable. In other words, it is the effect of independence variable. Actually, when we are making some changes or making some changes in independence variable, at that time we see or observe some effect on dependence variable. The dependent variable, also known as criterions variable, effect variable, and also post-test variable. It is the outcome of the study, the changes or difference in the group that occur as a result of independence variables. It's get its name because it is dependent on the independent variable. Only its name is dependent variable because it's completely depend on independence variable. Thank you friends for watching my video.